The Veil of Vengeance, Revenge from the Grave. The village of Black Hollow had always been shrouded in superstition, but none of its tales were more feared than that of Eliza Harrow, the betrayed bride. Eliza had been a kind soul in life, known for her beauty and charitable heart. But on the eve of her wedding, she was found dead by the riverbank, her bridal gown soaked in blood. The townsfolk whispered that her fiancé, Thomas Wren, had done it in a jealous rage after discovering she planned to leave him. Thomas vehemently denied it, but before the truth could surface, he mysteriously disappeared. Years passed. The river turned stagnant, and the once bright chapel where Eliza had intended to wed was abandoned, now a crumbling ruin overrun with weeds. Some claimed to see a woman in a tattered veil wandering the banks, her eyes hollow, her lips sewn shut. Few dared approach the chapel after sunset, for fear of being dragged to the river's depths. One stormy October night, James Wren, a descendant of Thomas, returned to Black Hollow. A skeptic, he had come to claim the family estate and put the village's ghost stories to rest. James arrived just as the storm broke, lightning illuminating the skeletal remains of the chapel. He'd heard the rumors since childhood, how Eliza's ghost would not rest until vengeance was fulfilled. James scoffed. Ghosts weren't real. He would spend the night in the chapel, prove everyone wrong, and walk out alive. He lit a lantern and stepped inside. The once beautiful altar was in ruins, and broken pews lay scattered like bones. The air smelled of damp earth and something metallic. Yet, despite the chapel's decay, one thing remained untouched, the stained glass window of a bride, her hands clasped in prayer. James shivered but stood his ground. Midnight came, and the chapel remained still. "Nothing but tales for fools," he muttered. Then the wind shifted. The air grew icy, and the lantern flame flickered violently before extinguishing itself. Footsteps echoed across the stone floor, slow and deliberate. "Who's there?" James called, his voice strained. No answer, just the sound of dragging fabric. He turned toward the altar and froze. A figure stood there, clad in a tattered bridal gown, her veil covering her face. Water dripped from her gown, pooling at her feet. Slowly, she raised her head, and the veil fell away. Eliza's face was a nightmare, a gaunt skull covered in patches of rotting flesh, her lips cruelly stitched shut. Her eyes burned with an unearthly light, locked onto James with murderous intent. I'm not him," James stammered, backing away. "Thomas is dead." "You have no reason." The stitches on her mouth tore open with a sickening rip. A voice, hollow and broken, filled the chapel. "Blood must pay for blood." James turned and fled, but the chapel doors slammed shut on their own. The walls groaned, and the floor cracked beneath him. He fell, landing in a shallow grave filled with wet soil. Above him, Eliza's face loomed, her skeletal fingers clutching a rusted blade. "No! Please!" he screamed. The blade plunged down. The next morning, the villagers found the chapel doors wide open. Inside, there was no trace of James, only a fresh grave beneath the stained glass window, the dirt still wet with blood. The bride in the window now wore a smile. "If you liked it, please leave a like and or subscribe. Thank you."